Chino. We back at it again, fam. You already know the vibes. We back 2020 Rex, and we're gonna pick up exactly where we left off last time. Last time I installed the Billetworkz short shifter. I have bought the whole short shifter kit, which includes not only the short shifter, which we installed, but the brass shifter bushing, and also the shifter plate. Now, last time I didn't have enough time to get into this and get this done, so today we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take care of that. So, as you can see, we already got the car jacked up in the air. I got tools laid out in front of me. So I'm gonna have to get down underneath the car, remove that same heat shield above the exhaust that I had to remove to do the short shifter. I believe it was 4 10mm nuts. 4 10mm nuts, 2 on the top, 2 at the bottom, to drop that heat shield. So we're gonna get ready and we're gonna do that right now. All right, guys, underneath the car, just want to show you real quick these 2 bolts right there. 1, 2, those 2 bolts right there. We're gonna get this heat shield out. Gonna have to drop this cross member on the transmission, and I believe this one right here too. And yeah, so we're gonna have to take off all of that. Let's start by loosening up those bolts. Leave the heads for 10mm. So let's get to that. I'll come back after it's off. All right, guys, I just want to come back and correct myself. They were not 10mm. The head of those bolts were 12, not a 10. So I already got it loosened up. Just gonna shimmy this thing. Not sure what size those are, so we got our impact sockets. Little 1/2-inch drive impact. If this one don't work, we got the big boy. If the big boy don't work, we'll bring out the compressor and the air one. But the Milwaukee should get the job done just fine. Let me just get underneath here, see what size these nuts and bolts are. The center ones on the cross member are in fact 14mm. So let's go ahead and loosen those up. Little Milwaukee got it done, no problem. No issues. We got those 2 off. Let's see, these bigger bolts on the ends. I'm thinking a 17. Let's check. $17 will do her. So you want 14mm for the center nuts of the cross member. 2 nuts in the center of the cross member. 17 for the bolts on the ends. And again, we'll walk you taking care of those. We got our cross member off. Now for that center piece, they're all 14 millimeters. We got 2 nuts in the middle and 2 bolts at the end. Again, no one putting in one right here. Very easy peasy. If you don't got an impact wrench, maybe lube these up with some PB blast or some kind of penetrating oil. Especially if your car's a little bit older. This is a 20. It's fairly clean underneath. Yours is a little crusty. Oil it down. And that should help. Also, if you got a breaker board up, that'll help. Use the right tool. Don't use a 1/2-inch drive ratchet. Don't use a 3/8 drive. You can probably do it, but use the right tools for the job, guys. Use the right tools for the job. Alright, we got both of the cross members out. Let's come and show you what we got going on underneath the car. All right, guys, now that we got both cross members and the heat shield gone, we're gonna have to remove these bolts right there to get this little shield off. And then there's another shield right there. 1, 2, 3, and I think there's one on the top, a 4th one. That one's gonna be harder to get to. Gonna have to get to it from the top over here. Should be able to get in there with a wrench or a ratchet, hopefully. We'll figure it out. Look like 10 millimeter heads on those bolts for both of these little shields. Let me grab my tools and get those off. Get them nuts off, boys. All right, guys, check it out. I got this shield off. Was 2 bolts. The heads of those bolts were 12 millimeter. You can see it on the ground right there. That shield had 4 bolts holding it on. This one right here, he had 1 and 2 on the back side, a lower one and an upper one. I use 6-inch extension, a shallow 12 millimeter socket. And to get those 2 off, you've got one, I can't really show you, you're gonna have to feel for it. So if you can see, I put my hand in from the front of the transmission above it in the tunnel, and up here on the side is going to be facing horizontally. You're going to come at it from the side, right where my finger is. It goes in right there. So you're going to want to get your ratchet on there with the 12 mil and just break it free. Once you break it free, get the ratchet off it and undo it by hand, because there's not enough space for you to completely undo it with the ratchet on there. All right, now that all that is off, we have the shift cable exposed. Bushing is going to be inside this thing right here. And this is the OE shifter plate. It looks substantially different. So it's like there's a little cotter pin holding this on. So we're gonna have to get that cotter pin off. This little clip right here, that should just should be able to just pry it out with a flathead, and then this cable, shift cable, should just pop right off. So let me go get some needle noses and a flathead so I can do that. All right, guys, I got that cotter pin out. I used some long needle nose pliers to get those off. You can see these long needle nose pliers help me get the cotter pin out of there. Once you get the cotter pin out, there's this little washer on top. We got that off. Then there was a little clip here that just sat right over there. Let's see, that clip right there. I just used a big flathead, any kind of pry tool you can get in between, and just push it out. Just a little crusty, lube it up. It'll help you get it out. This is probably the crustiest part of the car that I've touched so far, and it came off super easy. So let's see if I can do this one handed so you guys can see it on camera. I'm gonna want to pop this cable off of the shifter plate, and I might need 2 hands, yeah, so I don't fuck myself up. Alright guys, I just used a flathead between here and the cable and pop it out to the side. I think I gotta pop it out right there. Let's see. I may have to do this two-handed, guys. Yeah, it's bad camera work. All right, guys, two-handed popped out super easy. You just need 2 hands. It is out the way. That's the bushing. We're gonna replace that bushing with the Billetworkz brass shifter bushing. And now we see this is the OEM shifter plate that we gotta get off. So let's see, we should be able to move the gear selector. Yep, fairly easy. And there is a roll pin right there. So you can't tell, but it's actually 2 roll pins. Don't use too small of a punch, because you can just knock that center one out, leaving the bigger one behind. You're gonna wanna use a decent sized punch and knock them both out at the same time. Make life easier. Yeah, I would do what I did and just move the shift plate down. It'll change the gear, give you better access. I grab my punch and a hammer, and we're gonna tap that thing on out. That's a little crusty. I'm actually gonna lube this up. I would recommend doing the same. It just helps get it out easier. All right, guys, check it out. Got the roll pin out. Sorry, guys. Use this long center punch. Got it out. I'll tell you guys exactly what size it is in a second. I can look at it. Actually, I'm not sure if it's labeled on the tool. I know. Oh yeah, it is. 3/16. Don't use anything smaller. I was using a smaller one at first, and I started doing exactly what I told you guys you didn't want to do, was to start getting the smaller roll pin in the center out. That's 2 roll pins right there. You want to get them both out at the same time. And now I'm gonna need to get this guy off. I'm probably gonna need 2 hands. I was trying to do this, trying to do as much showing you guys, but just not in a situation like this, not gonna work out for me. So we'll cut back in a second. All right, guys, check it out. Factory shift plate is off. It takes some decent pressure. Don't be afraid. A flathead and a little whack and it'll come right off. All right, guys, I gotta grab the new one, and I think I'm gonna start the roll pin. Just, you know, you want to make sure it's not going through so that you can slide it on, but I'm gonna get it going because I think it'll just be easier to do while it's off the car, and then I'll slip it on the car and send her home. All right, guys, before I start setting that roll pin in the new shift plate, I just wanted to show you them side by side. Factory one looks significantly bigger, but holy crap, this Billetworkz one is way beefier, super heavy, which should help, you know, add some weight to those throws and make the shifts feel really nice and notchy. Don't know how else to describe it, but yeah, it should just be good feel when you shift. All right, I'm gonna start setting this roll punch in before I slip it on, and then we'll send her the rest of the way home once she's in. I just want to be careful not to start putting it too far in so is that I can't get it on the transmission. All right, let's do this. All right, guys, just want to show you again real quick. I started that roll pin into the shift plate. You can see it's in there, but it's just underneath where it starts to go through, so I'll have no problem slipping this on the transmission. I don't have anti-seize. Oh, you know what I do have though? A little bit of molly grease, normally for brakes, but that should do the same thing. Not really the right stuff, but it will do the same job. So yeah, I'm gonna rub just a little bit in there on there, just in case I ever have to take this apart. It'll pop off even easier than the factory one did. Now I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. I just want to show you the shifter plate is on. I already started tapping in the roll pin a bit. You could see it started. So what I did was use the long center punch, just make sure I moved this little nub that comes out the transmission that the shifter plate sits on. I try to align it down so, you know, the hole would be lined up where I can best start driving that roll pin in, and you know, wiggle it around like back and forth as you start tapping it in, going little by little. You don't want to just start jamming it onto that little piece until it starts. And you can see now it's on there. It's not all the way through, but it's on there. You know, it was aligned with that hole, and now I can finish driving it home. I just wanted to show you guys that real quick before I finish driving that roll pin in. All right, guys, you can see I got that roll pin just flush with the shifter plate. So to drive it back in, instead of using the one I used to get it out, which was a 3/16, I used to remove it. This one is 1/4 inch. I use a 1/4 inch because it's slightly bigger. It's just bigger than the hole opening, so I wouldn't drive it through more than I wanted to, and I would get it perfectly flush with the shifter plate. All right, guys, sorry, terrible camera work. I'm looking at what I'm doing with my eyes instead of with the phone. All right, now this cable, I need to pop this bushing out. It might be a little difficult to get out. Rubber looks crusty. I'm gonna spray it real quick with a little bit of oil, just to assist, and we'll see. Maybe I'll use some pliers, I'm not sure. I'll try and get this bushing out. All right, guys, as you can see, we got that bushing out. You see it's all wet and oily. I sprayed it up a little WD-40, lube her up, and I used this fat punch to just put in the hole and pry out towards one side. The top of the bushing started to pop out. Once it did, then I was able to just finish prying it right out of there. Yeah, I think I'm gonna take some dielectric grease and I'm gonna grease the inside of this. I'm gonna use dielectric grease just because that brass shifter bushing has some rubber O-rings on it, and yeah, you don't want to use any petroleum-based products on rubber O-rings or anything like that, because petroleum will degrade the rubber just faster over time. So we'll use some dielectric grease, which is silicone based. Pop that new bushing in, pop the cable on to the shift plate up there, and yeah, put the washer and the cotter pin back in. We'll just start reassembling this stuff. All right, guys, let's get to it. Check it out, check it out, check it out. Shift cable's back on. This little retaining clip, push back in. Washer back on. Focus, focus. Cotter pin is back in. All right, we're gonna put on this rear little shield and cover. We're gonna start with that top one. It's kind of horizontal. That was the hardest one to get to. And then these other three on the back will go in nice and easy. Put this little cover back on as well. Then, all right, guys, that's it. We're done. Got that shield and that shield. Both are back on. Let's see if we can back up a little bit. You can see transmission cross member is back on, and heat shield above the exhaust is back on. Completely unnecessary to do that or take off this rear one. Billetworkz in their instructions in their video had removed that, and I realized after I removed the heat shield, I did the heat shield first because it's the easiest thing to get off. But yeah, I realized you didn't have to remove this rear cross member at all. They did. Without removing this, you don't have to remove the heat shield. Just this one, the centerpiece. Make your life easier, less work, a little bit more efficient. It's all back together. Fairly easy install, guys. Doesn't take very long. As long as you got the right tools, you'll be in good shape. That's it. All right, guys. We out. Yo, yo, yo. Y'all already know what's up. It's your boy Chino. Just want to do a quick little follow-up. So I showed you guys underneath the car. I have put everything back together the way it was from the factory. But that was a mistake. I did it again. I got ahead of myself today. I didn't finish watching the whole Billetworkz video for their install. So I did not realize that this heat shield was not supposed to be reinstalled. The new shift plate is substantially beefier than the factory one, and there's clearance issues if you put this on. So you can't put it back on or else it won't engage all the gears. So whatever, I figured it out pretty quick. Took this back off. I realized, all right, something's in the way. Something's not allowing it to engage. I knew it was nothing inside the car. I hadn't touched nothing there. So I popped this off and it moves around. And I said, that's strange. Let me go watch Billetworkz video, see if they put it back on. They didn't. So yeah, pay attention, guys. Slow down. Even when you know what you're doing and something simple, you can still make a simple mistake. That happens. But she's all put back together. She's doing something under the hood real quick. But yeah, she's done. I got to take it for a ride. I did bring the new shift boot I have, a new bride shift boot I have to replace the one that I have now that's fucked up. But it needed to have little slits made in it, where the little like plastic tabs go through it, on the little plastic shifter surround, because for some reason it didn't have that. Right down the street from my house, there's like a lady, she's a tailor, a seamstress, whatever. She does alterations and shit like that. So I said, you know what? Something real simple that I don't have the confidence in doing. Probably could just take scissors or a blade and make all the little slits, but I said, you know what? Let's leave it to the professionals. I brought it down here to her for her to do. She said it'll be ready to be picked up later. So later I'll go pick it up, and that'll be the next little thing to do. Maybe I get into that tomorrow. If I do that tomorrow, I will put the HKS shift knob that I have stashed away on, just to complete that little shifter upgrade. I do have a e-brake boot also, bride, but whatever. I'm not worried about that right now, because I'll have to take probably, I'm assuming it's the same thing. I'll have to take mine off. Might have to bring it down to the lady for her to cut little slits in it. I'm not really sure. I haven't looked at it. But yeah, we'll see. I might have something else to do. Just little stupid fun things. Parts I got stashed to get done. So that heat shield is not back on there. I don't know why I want it back on there. Just like, I don't know why I wanted the factory engine cover on, but I did. So I modified it to be able to work with the upgraded top mount intercooler that I have. And not sure what happened, but I lost a video. I was saying I would like to modify that little cover that covered the factory shift plate, and yeah, just modify that and make it work. I'll have to, get back under there and kind of rest it up against there, move the shifter around, look at it, see where it does hit, and just estimate how much material I have to take away in order to be able to bolt it back on there without it interfering with the shifter and the shift plate, so that I'll be able to engage all gears. Seems like a silly thing to do, but like I was saying with the engine cover, what was the point of modifying it to make it fit with the new upgraded top mount? I just want things to look as factory as it can, like it came that way. I don't want people to look at it and be like, oh yeah, look at that, look at that, look at that, all these aftermarket parts that just stand out. I kind of want it to just look like that's the way it could have been. So yeah, but that'll be a project for another day. I'm gonna go a little bit later, pick up that shift boot. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow. Throw on that HKS shift knob. I got another little part maybe I could put on there, but we'll see. We'll see what we get into. All right, guys, that's it for this video. Peace.